Today we're replacing the rear brake pads and rotors on this Mazda CX-5. I'll guide you through each step, making sure the job is done safely and correctly. So let's get started. Before we begin, let's go over what you'll need. For lifting the car, a jack and a set of jack stands are essential. You'll need a ratchet and socket set. Make sure you have a 14mm and a 21mm, plus a breaker bar for those stubborn bolts, and a torque wrench to tighten everything properly. You'll also want a C-clamp or caliper compression tool, and some zip ties to hang the caliper, a steel wire brush along with a small nylon brush, and for supplies, brake cleaner, a bit of anti-seize, brake grease, and of course your new pads and rotors. I've included links to the exact parts and tools I'm using down in the description so you can find them easily. On the CX-5, if you have an electronic parking brake, you'll need to put it into maintenance mode before you start. Skipping this step can damage the mechanism, so let's take care of this right now. First, press the start button twice without pressing the brake pedal. This puts the car into accessory mode but keeps the engine off. Next, release the parking brake by pressing the brake pedal and pushing down on the parking brake switch. Now, press the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor. While holding it down, also press and hold the parking brake switch. Keep holding both controls and then press the start button 3 times within 5 seconds. You should hear the caliper motors retracting, and a yellow parking brake icon with an exclamation mark will light up on the dashboard. That confirms the system is in maintenance mode. If your CX-5 has a manual parking brake, you can simply lower the lever in the center console. With the parking brake taken care of, let's move on to lifting the car. Start by loosening the lug nuts on the rear wheels. Don't remove them completely. Just break their initial tension while the car is still on the ground. For all-wheel drive models, you'll find a solid central jacking point at the rear differential housing. Look for the flat extension designed for lifting. For two-wheel drive models, use the flat spot on the rear crossmember, located near the exhaust pipe. Raise the car high enough to fit jack stands under the factory lift points on both sides. Once the stands are in place, slowly lower the car onto them and leave the jack as an added safety backup. Now remove the lug nuts completely and take the wheel off. Now let's remove the caliper. Double check that you put your parking brake in maintenance mode if you have the electronic system before continuing with this step. Use a 14mm socket to remove the 2 guide pin bolts at the back of the caliper. Once those are out, lift the caliper away from the rotor. Never let the caliper hang from the brake hose. It can damage the line. Instead, use zip ties or wire to hang it securely from a nearby bracket. Next, remove the caliper bracket. It's held by 2 14mm bolts that are often very tight, so use your breaker bar here. Once they're out, the entire bracket with the old pads will come off. Now pull the old rotor free. If it's stuck from rust, tap it firmly with a rubber mallet, or use a hammer and block of wood to break it loose. With the rotor off, take your wire brush and clean the wheel hub thoroughly, removing all the rust and buildup between the studs. A clean hub surface is critical to prevent vibration. Next, take the caliper bracket that you just removed from the car, slide the old brake pads out of the bracket and remove the metal retaining clips. Your new pads will include replacement clips. Clean the bracket channels thoroughly with your wire brush. Then, apply some brake cleaner to get rid of all the dust to ensure the new clips will seat properly. Next, remove the slide pins from the bracket by wiggling them out. Then clean them thoroughly with brake cleaner. Also spray some brake cleaner into the guide pin bores and clean them with a nylon brush. This gets most of the old grime out. Now the bracket is ready to install the new hardware. Apply a thin layer of silicone brake grease to the channels. Take the new clips that come with your new pads and clip them into the channels. Next, take your new brake pads and apply a small amount of brake grease to the tabs and the metal clip on the side of each pad. These are the points that will slide into the clips you just installed on the bracket. Be careful. Don't let any grease get onto the friction surface of the pads. Now, install the pads into the bracket. This step can be a little tricky, but with some patience it will go smoothly. The side with the metal clip goes on the lower side of the bracket. This is the side closest to the ground once the bracket is reinstalled on the car. Start by pressing the side with the metal clip into the bracket, then slide the other side of the pad into place. You may need to press the clip slightly to get the pad to seat properly. Finally, make sure the bent tabs of the metal clip rest on the lower edge of the pad so they don't restrict its movement. Next, take the slide pins and apply a fresh coat of silicone brake grease. Push the freshly greased slide pins back into the bore. The pin with the black cap belongs in the lower bore. Check that the rubber boots are seated correctly to keep out dirt and moisture, and ensure the pins can slide freely. Now, clean your new rotor with brake cleaner to remove any oils or residue, then slide the rotor onto the hub. To keep it steady while you work, you can thread on a single lug nut to hold it in place. Next, reinstall the caliper bracket with the pads over the rotor and secure it using the two 14mm bolts. Torque these bolts to 47 foot-pounds, or 65 Newton-meters. With the bracket in place, apply some brake quiet to the back of the brake pads, specifically where the caliper will contact the brake pads. This helps dampen vibrations and prevents brake noise. If you don't have brake quiet, a thin layer of brake grease works as well. While the brake quiet is drying, let's prepare the caliper for reinstallation. Take an old brake pad and the caliper compression tool, then gently press the caliper piston back into the bore. Be careful here. The piston should not rotate. The markings on the piston need to stay in the same position. If the piston turns, it can damage the caliper's internal components. With the caliper piston fully compressed, you can now slide the caliper back over the new brake pads. Reinstall the two caliper slide pin bolts torque them to 22 foot-pounds or 30 Newton meters. Finally, take your brake cleaner and clean the rotor one more time to remove any grease or residue. Be sure to rotate the rotor so you can also clean the area that was covered by the caliper. We're almost done. Remove the temporary lug nut, then put the wheel back on and thread all the lug nuts by hand until they're snug. Next, lift the car slightly, remove the jack stands, and gently lower the car back down to the ground. Once the vehicle's full weight is on the wheels, torque the lug nuts to 108 foot-pounds, or 146 Newton meters. Always tighten them in a star or crisscross pattern. This ensures the wheel seats evenly. With the car back on the ground, we can now disable parking brake maintenance mode. Get inside the car and press the start button twice, without pressing the brake pedal, to enter accessory mode. Next, pull up and hold the electronic parking brake switch. Fully press and hold the accelerator pedal, and then press the start button 3 times. Remember, do not press the brake pedal during this process, or the engine will start. You'll hear the parking brake motor retract, and the yellow parking brake warning light will turn off. At this point, you can release the accelerator and the parking brake switch. Your electronic parking brake should now function normally again. Alright, one last and very important step before you hit the road. Get in the car and pump the brake pedal several times. It may feel soft at first, but it will firm up as the caliper pistons push out to meet the pads. Once the brake pedal feels firm, it's time to bed in your new brakes. Follow the instructions that came with your pads, but generally this involves a series of medium to hard stops from around 40 miles per hour down to 10, without coming to a complete stop. This process transfers an even layer of pad material onto the rotor, giving you the best performance and extending the life of your brakes. And that's it! Your new brakes are installed and ready for the road. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more DIY car tutorials. Thanks for watching.